Hi everyone, Deborah Lynn here in the studio. I hope you guys are all doing well. I have my alcohol inks out and I have a 100% silk scarf here. I bought this on Amazon. I think it was about a $20 here in the United States for this. And I went ahead and I steamed this one. Now I'm going to be doing two silk scarves for you here today. And the first one I steamed, the second one I didn't. So if you don't steam your silk scarf, you can do it with the creases in it. It just is a little bit, you have to work around those creases a little bit. It's not that difficult and it can be done. So if you don't have an iron, don't fret. You don't have to steam these. So I'll show you that in the second scarf. So now I'm just whipping up a green color of my own. I'm taking a green paint here that is, the alcohol ink is Mojito. And then I have teakwood. And I just put those two together to make a little bit more earthier green color. And now in order for your alcohol inks to activate, just like watercolor, you need water to activate the paint so it flows and moves. Same thing with alcohol ink, okay? You use the isopropyl alcohol to get it to move. And the higher the percentage, the better. So 91% is what I'm using here, and that's what I usually use for all my alcohol ink projects. Anything lower than that is got a different drying rate and is not really suggested. That's 91, 99, that kind of thing, okay? So I just used to using 91, so that's what I just stick with what I'm used to. So I'm just making some branches, twigs, whatever you want to call them, okay? I'm just laying a foundation. And as you can see also, the other thing that I did was I folded the scarf in half. There's no need to lay it all out. First of all, it's very long. You would need a very long workspace, which I have. I have that, but for filming purposes, I need to be able to, it needs to be big enough so not too big so that you guys can see everything. So you go ahead and you can fold it in half. And what happens is it transfers. What you're painting on the front transfers to the back side. So you only have to paint half of your silk scarf. How cool is that, right? Periodically, you just need to check and make sure everything's looking okay on the other side. And for the most part, everything was really good. No problems. And I just keep adding more green. I'm just trying to also create different values. When we're working on our paintings or the silk scarf or whatever we might be painting, you need to think about values. We don't want to be doing paintings that are just like we've only done one take on it, one level. We need to be able to get in there and do another one and add more value and just keep adding layers, okay? Now, even with these blooms that I'm working on right now, I think I'm putting Fiesta down. I think that might be the color. I could be wrong. Kind of going from memory of, it's just kind of a pretty pink color, but I don't just use that color. I'm going to use another color that's a little bit richer and darker in kind of the same family, and I think it's crimson, and it's just that's gonna bring even more depth in, okay? So I'm creating these values and this depth, you need to be able to find a sense of depth. So now also I'm just like dabbling in some soft pinks areas in the background, so it looks like there's flowers in the background also, okay? So, and you can shake some of these little spots. You'll see that happen in the next video. It does really cool things. I'm going to do a couple really cool things in the next scarf So I did speed up this filming, so this is not really a long tutorial, but if you stick around for both of them, you're going to see some kind of cool effects of what I do in the next one. But this one, you see me building up the value and increasing the depth in those blooms. And I'm going to bring in crimson for to bring it in. And also I'm going to bring in some passion purple. And that's also going to add another color, but it's also going to give me a little bit more depth into those centers of those blooms. So I'm just dancing my brush around. And sometimes I want my brush full of pigment. Other times I want it weaker. So I'm creating what? Values. So I just do these little happy dances. I'm not like methodically thinking, where do I place my brush? I kind of let my intuitive self do it and trust myself and push through fear, not over analyzing, just really letting my creative side of my brain take control. Whereas my analytical, overthinking side, I kind of push away. And if you're one that has to analyze and think about everything, sometimes I suggest that you block out that side of your brain by listening to a podcast or listening to something on TV, listening to a book being read to you, something that keeps that side of that brain busy so that your creative side of your brain can focus on what you're doing. Okay, and as you can see, now I'm putting this crimson down and it's adding that depth that I want. And you can see it goes down in like these petal shapes, but it just keeps increasing and growing. This is what I'm talking about. It has a mind of its own and it's going to do what it wants. Okay, and you have to kind of like work with what is in front of you and just don't be afraid. Just keep adding. How many layers have you seen as you've watched this go down as I'm working on these blooms? Quite a few already, because you just have to have confidence to keep building. Sometimes I see things that are a little bit on the weaker side because the confidence is not there, because you're afraid you're going to mess something up. Well, just know, even if you mess something up, you've gained so much knowledge that it's almost more beneficial than having a painting that ends up turning out nice. Learning the lessons along the way are so, so important. So it's part of the process. So now this is that passion purple going into play. I'm just kind of putting some little texturized spots into areas. Of course, what do? They spread out. Although, would I like it to be texturized and kind of not move around much? Of course, but it's not going to happen. It's going to do what it wants to do. So now I'm checking the other side to make sure everything is okay. But I'm seeing that I think I still need more depth. So I think I'm going to work in a bit more of that dark green in. Yep, that's what I'm grabbing. I'm grabbing the green. I'm making my mixture again, making that earthy dark green color. And I just want to really set it with some depth and texture. The background is really white right now, and I'm just trying to fill that in just a little bit. And it's making it a little bit busy, but that's fine. Because think about this. When you're wearing the scarf or somebody's wearing the scarf, they're not going to see the whole laid out version of it. They're going to see it all wrapped up around your neck. They're just seeing this joyous, beautiful bouquet of florals around your neck, okay? So it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? It does not need to be perfect. And here's the other thing. When you get into, when this is done, okay, when you finish this, hang it somewhere where it's not going to touch anything and it can dry. I just drape mine over my light rings and let it dry. It does not take long to dry. Don't put it in a dryer because it's got what? It's got alcohol in it, and that's flammable. So we wouldn't want to put it in a heat source. Don't go running and thinking you can throw an iron on top of it. Don't do that. That's dangerous. We need to let it dry. Once it's dry, then we're going to go take it to our sink and we're going to run it under really cold tap water and rinse, 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 and keep rinsing. And your background that was white when you were painting is now going to change subtly. Mine turned to a soft, soft palette of pink. So my background on this ends up being a really pretty pink. And just know that that's just going to happen, okay? And then I put a little soap in after I've rinsed it really well. Then you're going to see all this pigment coming out because there's a lot going down and it can't stay in there, okay? It can't stay in there because it will just transfer onto everything that anybody, if somebody's got a blouse and it gets transferred, you want to rinse that all out and then go ahead and use some soap. And even when you've got it mostly rinsed out, there's still going to be residual. Even when you gift it to somebody, you need to let them know this is hand painted. It has active pigments in it. Hand wash it. Don't lay it anywhere to dry that could stain something. Don't lay it on a table that might get wet. Just be careful with what you're doing with your silk scarf. Okay, so just know that you need to do that. You need to get that disclaimer. So now I have got some clean isopropyl here, and I have a new scarf. So now we're going to move on to the next one. And as you can see, I did not steam this at all. Okay, and is it a little bit tougher to paint with these folds? Yes, of course. It's not smooth. Okay, so I've got to kind of work past that. But as I'm working, it all kind of relaxes a little bit, and it wasn't that bad. Is it smarter to steam it if you have an iron? Yes, by all means, steam it. It takes but a couple minutes, but I wanted to see what would happen. I already got something all over, but I covered it up. And there must be something on the back side of that plate because I put it on that other I see it on that other seam over there too. That's okay. It all works out. And the other thing is that my drop cloth is might be just slightly damp underneath, or there's pigments that are a little bit, they're kind of showing through, they're kind of peeking through. I'm picking up just a little bit of pink. So although I'm going to go in here with like a dark blue, I think this might be indigo, a dark blue. It's picking up a little bit of that pink that's on the underside under that drop cloth. So it's telling me that at this point, I'm going to have to add probably pink into this to make sense of what it's picking up from my drop cloth. And now I'm just making a little bit longer brushwork here. And it does grow a little bit. But for the most part, I really was really liking how these flowers were turning out. They weren't as loose as the last one. And what am I grabbing? I'm looking for something. Oh, is that the passion purple? I think that's, oh no, this is, I gotta see the bottle. This could be ultramarine. I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure what just went down. But look at these are the cool things that happened. Look at when I just did the splashing from the actual bottle. It made these tiny little crosses, and these spots are really kind of cool. So it does some really cool effects when you just splash it. And I did a couple other scarves that I didn't include in this tutorial that were a little bit more splashy. They were all these different colors all splashed together, and I made bigger spots, and then I made smaller spots, and I just created this like splashy effect, and that was fun. Again, that's not in this tutorial, but there's you just have to think outside of the box of how you can go ahead and be creative in making your scarf and making it your own. And as you can see, that fold in the middle is fighting me just a little bit, not too bad. Now this is the pink I'm going to put down because I felt like a little bit of that pink was wanting to peek through. So I'm just gonna let it play and let it just come into play and be what it wants to be. And give it another flip and see what's going on this side. Everything's transferring through very nicely. And now I'm going in with that green and just adding some color where I think needs to happen. I'm just building up that flower a little bit, putting a stem on it. And doing some work in the background. And it didn't really transfer that much onto this side, so I'm just going to help it out a little bit. Now I do a really cool thing here too, so don't run away. You're going to see something really cool happen here in a little bit, where I get a little creative with a different idea that I didn't use in the last one. I'm just pushing up that pink. I'm really going to go for the pink now. I'm going to really go for it. So I have that soft pink going on. Now I'm going to build up to a little bit bolder pink. And now I'm just going to shake some of this. I think this might be Dijon. I think so. Or it's either that or butterscotch. I'm not 100% sure which one I grabbed. Okay, I'm just adding some more stem work. And as things are kind of expanding, it kind of diffuses. So I have to just keep going back in and just re-adding layers to get the effects that I want. So it's a matter of just keep playing until you see exactly what you want. And I'm always flipping and making sure both sides look okay. And anything that may need a little help, I just coax it along there and just add to it. And check the other side. Basically going to do what I just did on this side now. Just make sure it's taking on this side. Okay, so now I'm just picking up the isopropyl, and I don't have any pigment other than the dirty isopropyl, and it's starting to make its own shapes with just the isopropyl. Instead of using ink, I'm using isopropyl to draw with. And what that's going to do is it kind of lightens it and kind of gives it a highlight. So now I can kind of draw shapes of certain things, like little leaves or little buds or little petals. And it leaves like a little mark. You can see it forming right now. And that's what's really kind of cool, is to do this drawing with just the isopropyl. Okay, so since you have the ink down, then you go in and you draw details, like I'm doing just little petals, just very loose. And I'm using that very floppy liner brush that helps me stay really loose. Because what is this? This scarf is a very loose painting, so we wouldn't want anything too tight, so we keep it all loose. So now I'm going to go to this side and I'm going to check this out, and I'm just going to add just some loose details. Just kind of outline some of those little petals. And it just gives that little extra something on this one that turned out really cute. And I can go in and put a couple little spots in there, and that texture kind of stays there. So it's all about experimenting and figuring out how to put these into play and what you can do to make them interesting and fun. Well, you guys, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to paint 100% silk scarves. Go out there and make yourself some wearable art for yourself or any of your loved ones. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. Bye for now.